The political quagmire here in France has just become a little bit deeper and more sticky this Monday, under pressure to appoint a new prime minister. The French President Emmanuel Macron met with the lead faces, there they are, of the far right, Marine Le Pen, Jordan Bardella. They both said they wouldn't work with a leader of the government who'd been appointed from the political left. Now, it's worth pointing out Le Pen's national rally polled third place in July's decisive second round of the legislative elections in France. The New Popular Front, or the United Left, finished top. The key thing is, though, there was no overall majority.
Another busy day for the French president, who has hosted a string of party leaders at the Élysée since Friday in hopes of finding a candidate for prime minister that would not immediately be toppled in a confidence vote. But that is exactly what the far-right's Marine Le Pen and Jordan Bardella said they planned on doing if the candidate and the government came from the left-wing New Popular Front.
So we've asked for an extraordinary session to be opened so that the Prime Minister, whoever it is, can appear before the National Assembly.
The New Popular Front, in its programme, movement and figures that personify it, today represents a danger. We will defend the country from a government that will divide French society.
A position also expressed by some of Emmanuel Macron's allies and the leader of the conservative Les Républicains party.
Any prime minister from one of the four parties of the New Popular Front will be subject to an immediate no-confidence vote by the MPs in my group.
The National Assembly is largely split between three blocs, with none close to a majority. But as the largest of the three, the left-wing New Popular Front argues that it should form the government. It has asked Macron to consider 37-year-old economist and civil servant Lucie Castets as head of government.
We therefore ask that the New Popular Front government be allowed to work, to set up a budget exercise, and then to leave it to the French people to judge.
Over the weekend, as a compromise, hard left France Unbowed leader Jean-Luc Mélenchon said that the government would not have to include his party members, a key objection of the right and centre. The pressure is mounting on Macron, who has now left a caretaker government in place for an unprecedented period, and with the deadline to present a draft 2025 budget just over a month away.
A penny for his thoughts is what you might say as that report by Emerald Maxwell ends. And here for your analysis in the studio, we're joined by Hind Ziane, founder and CEO of Génération politique. Hind, French politics appears to be eating itself right now. Is that a fair assessment?
I think it is a fair assessment. We're at a very critical point in French politics. The past few days, the past few weeks have been pretty strange, I would say, to all French people and also to international observers. I think a lot of us are just expecting a lot of instability, a lot of hardships and difficulty, but it seems like the president still wants to take his time to get us to a stable government. And the question is, can we really get to that stable government? Because the National Assembly is so divided, and it's been so ever since the last elections. Can we get there? That's the big question for me.
The left group finished top after the second round of the legislative elections. The third place national rally, the far right, are saying they won't work with someone from the left. How can they say that? That's the question I'm asking myself.
So yeah, the question here for me is that it looks like everybody's in it for himself or for themselves. It's like, I'm not going to vote for him. We're going to sign a no confidence vote or a motion of no confidence. And so it just feels like we have had those elections that were extremely unexpected for everybody. And then we're at a point where, and I think it's fair to say it, we're at a sort of something like that looks like a mess, you know. And so what I think is also interesting is to look back at the other points in our history where we've had a situation that's similar to the one that we have today. So we've had three big situations in '86, in '97, and I believe, I forgot the third date, but we've had three of them, you know, and it's just that today it looks like it's going to be difficult to have either side. It's going to be difficult to govern either way for the next year. And the French Constitution says that you can't dissolve Parliament another time before next year. So I don't really see any other option here for the president or for President Macron other than just getting by for a year, hoping that there's not too much instability and hoping for better days to come after a year.
You mentioned the Constitution. People are clinging to that. When the results of the legislative elections came in on July the 7th, people were talking about Macron now being a lame duck president. Canard boiteux is the phrase in French. It's funny how it's now looking like the whole system is the lame duck, and there's the president trying to basically wring his hands and find a way ahead. Do you think Macron in some way is... I'll say it. Do you think he's enjoying what's going on? Do you think he's actually getting some kind of sense of satisfaction out of it?
Is he a winner of what's happening? Part of it is, I would say yes, part of it. But I would say that the biggest loser is France itself. Because if you look at the way politics is working out today, if you look at the way institutions are working today, it's just a display of utter mess to the French people. French people, and we've worked about this a lot on the ground, who already are extremely defiant of French politics, of French politicians. So I think maybe part of him, because he's a politician and he's been doing this for some time, part of him is thinking, okay, I want to win this, and I have those adversaries, and I have those enemies in politics, and I want to win against them. But the question for me is more like, who's the loser here? And the loser is probably the country and the French people.
And from the way you look at politics, I mean, clearly there will be some people who will feel more and more disillusioned about what they're seeing. And I'm thinking maybe young voters or those about to sort of turn of the age when they can vote, they'll look at the system and think, hang on a minute, what's the point? This isn't for me. This is just chaos.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think young people, there's a lot of young people who are very disengaged, who there's a lot of apathy about politics, especially here in France. It's just insane to think that there's a whole new generation that can be just a driving force for politics, that can really help politicians change the way we do politics and be closer to citizens, closer to people, and really delivering with a lot of efficiency, of government-led efficiency. But we're not getting there because there's just so much disillusionment, and young people, but just people in general are just kind of sick of the general atmosphere, of the general environment. But this is true for France, but also for a lot of Western democracies. So I think we also have to ask ourselves the question is, do we want to get there? Do we want to go to a point where it's just like nobody cares about politics, or at least everybody's so disappointed in it that they're not doing anything actively for the political sphere, the city that we all share together. So it's extremely saddening for the future, but I think there are solutions. There can be solutions. I just hope that our political leaders are going to take that path for the next days and the next months and years.
Indeed. I said at the start of this, a penny for the thoughts of President Macron, or a centime. Maybe we could, sort of try to get inside his head. What do you think he's going to be thinking? I mean, once upon a time, after the first round of the legislative elections, one thought there was going to be a far-right government. That was erased as an idea by the banding together of the parties to block that, which is a traditional French move to keep the far-right out of power, that philosophy going way back to the Second World War when France was under Nazi occupation. So that's the little history lesson. Let's get right up to date now and think about what Macron can do next. What would it be? But is he going to just basically sweat this out and maybe just appoint his own man? Would we see Attal prolonged as Prime Minister, do you think?
I think I honestly think the country needs a government as soon as we can, and he can get us one. But I believe that part of it is really also about him stating to all his political adversaries that he's the guy, he's the leader. And the fact is also that in France, under the French Constitution, today's 1958 Constitution, well, he is the one who calls the shots, and that we've been seeing this for a couple of weeks now, for a couple of days now. So he's probably going to try to walk on this path, but the part of it, at least if you look back at the interview he made a couple of weeks ago, it was just before the Olympics, the opening ceremony. What he said was, what I want is to give the country a government that's not going to fall in the next 3 days, And I believe, at least that's what he says, and I hope he's very sincere about that. I believe that's what he's going to get. So it's probably, he said, it's not going to be a left-wing government, but it's probably going to be a government that is going to at least keep up the momentum for him and his party from now on. And On the other hand, what I kind of think about is that also he can't just get somebody who is too close to him, because otherwise people are going to feel like they've been totally fooled. And he still has 3 years to stay, so he's going to have to manage all of, those specifics about, French politics, like finding somebody who's not going to get overthrown in the next 3 days after being selected is an extremely hard challenge, because if you look at the math, it's very simple. You got to get 289 to get an absolute majority. If you look at the math, it's not adding up. So what is he going to do? I think, at least what we know is what he's not going to do. And what he's not going to do is pick someone from the left.
Hind, thank you very much indeed. Pleasure speaking to you, and interesting to consider all the options, and there are many more out there. Hind Ziane, founder and CEO of Génération politique. Thank you for calling in here, France 24, and speaking to us. We appreciate your time, and we value Hind's analysis. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much.